everybody, and welcome to our back to school meeting. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to seeing screens and talking to screens without seeing people, so bear with me as this is slightly awkward for me. So we're going to be going through a little bit of our back to school plan. A lot of the questions, we had about 25 questions submitted to us, so we'll go through some of those questions, and then feel free to use the chat box. Katie Tiedemann is here with me monitoring the chat box, and she'll be able to answer those if I don't address them directly in today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded, so this will be available as well on our screen or on our website after we have concluded this meeting for reference, or if you have to scoot out of here for whatever reason. All right, so we are going to start with a welcome back message from Father Peter and prayer.
Dear parents, I want to give you and our students a warm welcome back. There's no secret that this new school year, at least the beginning of it, will look a lot different. Seeing your support and encouragement throughout the summer months has meant a lot to me and our school staff, who have worked so hard to safely welcome the children into the building on day one and adjust to all the scenarios we might face. Yes, this is a different learning environment in many ways, but you know what has not changed? The family-like atmosphere of our school. The bonds our children have made over the course of the years among themselves, with our teachers, and our partnership with you in giving our children the best learning environment possible. There is a strong sense of belonging here at St. Paul that no pandemic can take away from us. From the love you have for one another, they will know you as my disciples, said the Lord Jesus. This love for one another makes us pursue excellence in all things, after St. Paul's exhortation to the Philippians, which we take to heart here at St. Paul the Apostle. Our children sense that, you sense that, and I sense that. This love towards our neighbor makes us adapt and seek new ways to serve and to respond to the needs of our time. Our mission doesn't change. What changes is the way we live it. Mrs. Morrow and I are committed to responding to the best of our capabilities to the challenges of the present moment with you and with our school board members. We are committed to weathering the storms together with you, and by God's grace, I know that we will emerge stronger at the end of this. We will look back one day and recognize the powerful yet gentle hand of God with us, just like you do every day with your children. We don't need to wait for that day to recognize the good present among us in our school and parish and powerfully at work. We can see it right here, right now. Just like a virus spreads, even more, dare I say, does the good, the positive spread. My prayer and invitation to all of us as St. Paul family this year is to spread the good existing among us, to welcome it every day from God, who is the source of all good, and to be agents of it in all our interactions. To our returning families, a warm welcome back here from me and Father Michael. To our new families, welcome to our St. Paul School families. Thank you for trusting and entrusting us with the most precious gift of God to you, your children. Please join me now in praying for God's blessing upon us this new school year. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we ask your fatherly blessing upon each one of us, upon our parents, upon our teachers, upon our staff, upon our board members, upon our children especially, that this year may be a year of growth, that we may grow in the knowledge of you and in the knowledge of all the good things you have prepared for us, that we may grow stronger, that we may have the confidence that with you and thanks to you, we can overcome anything. We trust in you, and we, through the intercession of St. Paul the Apostle, we ask that you continue to bless us and to sustain us and to guide us. Through the intercession of St. Paul the Apostle, may Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right, so thank you, Father Peter, for that wonderful introduction. And we want to welcome you, every one of you, back to school. I can't believe in just a few short days, we will all be together. Today, our staff came together and had their kickoff meeting here at school, and it was so nice to see everybody in the hallways and moving around and having life back in this building. It's been, 5 short and long months since we've seen everybody, and we're excited to kick off this school year soon. In doing that, I wanted to point out a few things. On Friday, we released a lot of information to you with our building plan, with our calendar, and I want to take a minute to show you where you can find that information yourself. When you go to our website, www.spagr.org, the first thing when you go to the school side, you'll have this pop-up Meet You. This is where you can go directly to all of our COVID-19 roadmaps. You'll find our building plan here, you'll find the diocese plan, and everything you need to know right here. So when you click into this, you'll be brought to the page that is our 2020 Back to School page. Like I said, our virtual learning experience, blending learning experience, the roadmap, all the information that we have given and provided you will be kept up to date on this website. Every Friday, I get an update from the Kent County Health Department on policies and procedures that we're putting into place, as well as new things that they've learned. And we will be updating those regularly. If it is a large change or something that I feel is very important for our whole community to know when it's happening, I will be absolutely sure to send out an email with all of those big changes. But if you want to kind of just keep up to date, keep checking, this is the place that you want to go to. So going back to my presentation here. There we go. So let's start off first with the screening tool. One of the big components with the partnership between home and school is to screen our students before arriving. This is going to be the safest way to keep what's happening within the building safe and secure. So we are going to be utilizing the Kent County Health Department screening tool. They are kind of finessing it right now, and we'll get more and more information as we get closer to our start date. So it will begin with an initial registration by you on the family for each of your children. Before leaving for school, you as the parent or guardian will need to fill out this form for each of your children via their online portal. The information then gets shared with us here at St. Paul as well as Kent County Health Department, and they have ensured that this is in full compliance with HIPAA. The portal will also provide you feedback based on the symptoms that you may or may not be seeing in your student. Especially as we're going into fall and cold and flu season, this will be an extremely valuable tool to help parents decide whether they need to keep their kids home for 24, 40 hours to monitor symptoms and to ensure whether it's a cold, allergies, or actual COVID-19. So this is going to be a really valuable tool for us. The data will also assist Kent County Health Department in the contact tracing of COVID-19. As you know, and you've probably read and heard, the contact tracing is going to be crucial to mitigate those risks that we have in the larger community. St. Paul will also be receiving real-time reports on students who have completed and have not completed. This will allow us that upon arrival, we will know which students we need to bring to the office and do a screening right there. All students will be screened prior to going into their room. We are asking that parents take on that primary responsibility, but we do have checks and balances through the screener to allow us to catch anybody that might have missed it or forgotten. In talking with the Kent County Health Department, they have also assured that you as parents will be receiving text messages and other communications to remind you to fill it out every day. So if you are like me and mornings get a little chaotic and you're racing out the door, it's going to be something that will remind you to make sure and keep reminding you until you've completed it. So like I said, contact tracing is crucial as we continue to navigate and go forward. So we here at school will provide Kent County Health Department with any of the cases that we know of possible, and then this is the contact tracing tool that we will be using with them. Our first call, as in our building plan, as noted, is that our first call is always to the Kent County Health Department. They are going to be walking through hand in hand to ensure that we are following all the procedures and protocols when we have a symptomatic student or staff member, as well as how to communicate out with parents, when to do that. And so we will be following their lead as the experts in this. So we've had a lot of questions about what happens if personnel tests positive for COVID. So as you can see, this chart again provided to us by the Kent County Health Department. Then first thing we all do is call the Kent County Health Department. They will then walk us through a series of questions. They will ask us questions about how our building's arranged, who they came in contact with, and such, and we will follow this flow chart all the way down. So students and personnel staff here are treated the same when we have students that are symptomatic or personnel that's symptomatic. We will follow the same procedures. These are also embedded within our building plan, and these come again straight out from our Kent County Health Department, and you can see those scenarios outlined very clearly. They are constantly updating and clarifying certain parts as they are receiving questions. So you can see scenario 1 here. If a student or school personnel is confirmed to have COVID, this is what is going to happen. If they are symptomatic and pending results, this is what's going to happen, and so on and so forth. So I urge you to read through those and kind of arm yourself with the knowledge of what the action steps are. So you've taken a COVID-19 test, and again, another flow chart provided to us in the Kent County Toolkit tells us what happens if there's a negative result or if a positive result. And then the question we have in relation to this is, how long must a teacher or staff person be out of school if they test positive? And the answer to that is the same as if a student. They may return to school when they have a negative test result after 24 hours of no fever and respiratory symptoms have improved, and 10 days have passed since the first symptom. So typically this is about a 11 to 14 day process. The next question that naturally comes up is, my teacher's out because they might be positive or presumed positive. What happens next? So our staff members will be delivering online instruction and will be streamed into the classroom from their homes, so long as their symptoms are not great. They will have a substitute teacher in the classroom with them as a live person. We have been blessed to be able to hire a floating substitute for this school year, somebody whose sole job is to fill in when staff are in and out of the building. That way we can continue to make sure that they are following our processes and procedures. If we have more than one staff out at a time, we'll continue to kind of grow that list, and you might even see me subbing for a little bit here and there. So just some updates from the Kent County Health Department. I felt I wanted to share these with you. These are five updates that should be coming soon, possibly even at the end of this week, so for more clarification. And again, we will be sharing those out via our website as well as an email. So information about criteria used to decide whether a school should close and what triggers a closing, videos to explain the processes, steps for parents to help students become accustomed to wearing masks, and we'll talk a little bit about mask wearing in a little while, as well as social emotional resources and best practices for band, choir, and music. For those of us who have 7th and 8th graders, we are not going down to Catholic for band and music this year. They will be coming to us here, and then we will be following Kent County Health Department in best practices for band, choir, and music. It will probably be starting out these first few weeks of school as learning to read music and not actually doing the singing or the playing of instruments until we have confirmation from the health department that it is safe. So I referenced this a little bit earlier. If a teacher is out due to COVID, what happens? So again, we have our floating sub who will fill in for that teacher when they are absent. And then if we have the awful time of having multiple staff out at a time, we will be using our additional subs, the principal, vice principal, and aides to fill the classroom. Again, those teachers, when they are out of the building, so long as their symptoms are mild, they will be providing that instruction from home via Canvas and then streaming into the classroom. We've gotten a lot of questions about mask wear. One that popped up quite frequently is, what happens if my child mixes up their mask, drops their mask, misplaces their mask, etc. As you know, wearing masks is something that is practiced, needs lots of practice. And so we are trying to make sure we have all policies and procedures to assure that the students will not be mixing up their masks or be able to handle them appropriately. All of our students are going to be receiving a lanyard that will clip to their masks. So if they are not on their face, say during lunch hour for the older students, or for the younger students, they're in their learning, their individual learning space, and it's down around their neck. It's not dropping to the floor. For our younger students, during lunch, as you can imagine, having your mask around your neck will probably catch more food than it will divert it. So we will be placing those in brown paper bags that will be clearly marked by a student name. Those will help the masks dry out, but not in use as well. So each classroom has designated spaces for each particular student to put their masks. I know there's a lot of concerns about everybody wearing the same mask. And that is something that we are constantly thinking about and wondering what the best practice is there. We want our masks to be without logos, without graphics, simply because we don't want the mask to become the next fashion trend and make people and students feel, if I have an Old Navy mask versus an Athleta mask versus a this mask. So we're really trying to just make the masks a non-issue. If you have specific concerns, textile issues, we are absolutely working with all students and families. But for the most part, we really just want them void of as much graphics as possible and be pretty plain for our face coverings. If something does happen to a child's mask during the day, we have disposable masks that we will be giving them to be able to wear for the remainder of the day. So your child will never be without a safe face covering during the school day. Also, for those of you who have ordered the St. Paul masks, those should be coming in shortly. We will notify you as soon as possible. They will be here before the beginning of school, and we'll let you know when you can pick them up. So to continue to talk about masks, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Kristen Jacob. She's an internal medicine pediatrics doctor affiliated with Spectrum Health. And I've asked her to talk a little bit about masks, particularly with our legally and according to the Michigan Return to School Roadmap, our preschool through 5th grade are not mandated to wear masks during the school day. However, we know that it is best practice that as much as you can wear a mask, that is going to alleviate the risks of droplets in students. So we here at St. Paul are going to work with our students. I did not want to put it in the plan that it is required of all K-5 students to wear it at all times, simply because I want the opportunity for my students and staff to learn appropriate ways to make their masks. It's not, it's an opportunity to build their strength in wearing their masks when they're at their individual learning pod, socially distanced away from other students, and they will be able to take it down, take a breather, relax, and build up their stamina to wear it as comfortable as possible. So Kristen, Dr. Jacob, I'm going to turn it over to you here. And allow you to screen share.
All right. Hi, everyone. It is so exciting to see even everyone virtually. I can't wait to see everybody in person. Really grateful to have Michelle asked me to talk today. So first and foremost, my first job is I am mom to Vince, who is going into kindergarten. Vince, you want to come say hi? He's hiding in the corner. Grace, who is going to be in preschool 3s, and then Lewis is 19 months and thinks he's ready to go to preschool. But my day job is I practice internal medicine pediatrics at Spectrum Health, and we are having a lot of conversations about getting our patients back to school, and particularly around face masks. So I wanted to kind of go through some basics. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Kristen.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Let's see. Did it go ahead? There we go. So going back to the basics, we've been hearing this for 5 months, but wanted to level set with some of the basics. We know that COVID-19 spreads mainly from droplets, and that the reason that the 6-foot distance is in place is because that is about the max that droplets can spread. We know that a significant portion of individuals with COVID-19 lack symptoms, or you've been hearing the term asymptomatic. So we don't know if they're positive. Even those who eventually develop symptoms or are pre-symptomatic can transmit the virus to others before they even show symptoms. We also know that children can spread the COVID-19 virus. And so all of this compilates to continued evidence showing that the importance of universal face coverings and interrupting the spread of COVID-19. So you'll see the chart on the right. Most people have seen some version of this, explaining visually why it's so important to universally mask, because and so a lot of it does come down to why, because so many people are asymptomatic. You can see on the bottom, on the way up, looking at what is the most high risk situation if we are not masking, and especially if we're not 6 feet apart. And then various scenarios, if one person or another is only wearing a mask, those are considered medium risk situations. And then on the top, you can see what the lowest risk situation is. And so much of what we are talking about with this virus is mitigating risk. We want to create the lowest risk environment for getting our kids back to school. There is no doubt that getting kids back to school is important. Is important for socioeconomic development, for their education. And so mitigating the risk as much as possible is what the goal is here. And want to give a huge thank you to Michelle and all the team leadership at St. Paul, because this, for all their hard work for this plan to mitigate risk across the board. Just to clarify again what the CDC recommendations are, the CDC recommends that people wear masks in public settings and when around people who do not live in your household, especially when other social distancing measures are difficult to maintain. Even when you are wearing a mask, it is encouraged to social distance and remain 6 feet apart. So again, the plans in place are standing up to these recommendations. The Kent County did state for children in pre-K to 5th can remove their masks once they're settled into their classroom. But as Michelle stated, that the goal is to be wearing masks as much as possible, recognizing that with little kids, there are barriers that make that challenging. Some basics that are so important for families to understand and to be teaching our kids, because once they're at school, they're going to be putting their masks on and off by themselves. And so really encourage you to look at this and share and teach your kids how to do this appropriately. Really, when we're looking at the first steps of putting a mask on, first and foremost, washing hands or using hand sanitizer to make sure they're clean hands. Next, grasping the mask by the ear loop so that you can put it right over the ear If it's a tie mask, first tying the top and then tying the bottom. And then if there is a nasal bridge that adjusts, putting that over the nose. And then lastly, adjusting to make sure it covers the chin. While wearing the mask, it's so important, and a lot of what is training and helping our kids understand is not touching the mask, fidgeting with the mask. And this is really probably the two things that take practice and will take time for helping our children understand that. Similarly, when you are removing your face mask, again, washing hands. Again, trying not to take the front of the mask to bring it down, but instead grabbing the ear loops to remove it carefully. And then if there's a place to store it, paper bags, we're using that in healthcare as well, or with the lanyard, those would be the places to store safely. And then again, cleaning hands after removing the mask. Practical tips that have been coming up, and that we know that doing this with kids and wearing masks for a long time, really a lot of practical things come up. First of all, questions have come up about using masks with vents. These are not recommended as it lets out the air and thus is not effectively protecting those around you, but is only protecting yourself. And again, this is intended to protect not only yourself, but to protect others. Also have had questions about gaiters that are out there. So the gaiters are kind of the material that goes around the neck and then is pulled up. The CDC hasn't made a firm statement on this, but does note that handkerchiefs around the mouth or bandanas or other material are really the lowest choice. Preferentially, it is recommended that face coverings are cloth, 2 layers, and then also with ear loops. One of the concerns with gaiters is that the up and down is touching the area that might be exposed more than what we wanted. Can you turn that off, please? Again, just to clarify, there have been more and more studies on evidence to suggest that masks do not increase carbon dioxide or decrease oxygen levels to dangerous amounts. Also, again, masks with adjustable ear loops and moldable nasal bridges may be most comfortable for children and help stay in place. So more versions of masks are coming out with adjustable things to make this more comfortable. Additionally, it might be helpful to take the pressure off the ears with headbands or a band in back that has buttons. That's a strategy that is being used to help release the pressure behind the ears and make it more comfortable for wearing throughout the day. Again, disposable masks should be disposed of after a single use. And if the cloth masks are worn to school, they should be washed after every use with hot water, and detergent is sufficient. It is okay to wash the masks with other clothes. Glasses. Glasses become challenging when you are wearing a mask. They are at risk of fogging up. Some tips to helping prevent this are that washing the glasses, if appropriate, if they do not have a special covering on them, but washing the glass with soap and water prior to use can help prevent the condensation. Also, using anti-fog spray. Using a mask with a moldable nasal bridge, and also placing the glasses over the top of the mask on the nose may help prevent fogging. We're also running into, particularly with adolescents, breaking out around their face and having an increase in acne due to prolonged mask wearing. And so preventatively using a benzoyl peroxide or salicylic acid wash daily can help prevent this. And then also looking for masks that are made of a moisture wicking material can help. What if my child is scared of wearing a face mask? So like we've alluded to, this takes practice, and we absolutely want to encourage kids to be doing the best they can to keep masks on as much as possible. But there's no doubt that this is challenging for kids of all ages, especially younger children. Some things that are recommended from the Academy of Pediatrics to try to mitigate this is, first and foremost, practice wearing this at home. On the website, the SPA website, there's actually a great tip and schedule on easing your child into wearing a mask, and really is based on wearing it for, easing into it, whether it's 10 minutes at a time, a few times a day, 20 minutes at a time, and working your way up so that kids are getting used to not only wearing it, but avoiding fidgeting with it and touching it. Other strategies, if they are feeling nervous about wearing a face mask, is looking in the mirror with the face coverings on and talking about it. Putting the cloth face covering on a favorite stuffed animal, or drawing one on their favorite book character, showing other pictures of other kids or other people wearing face masks. And then also model wearing a mask with them. If they are seeing you do this and prioritize this as following the CDC recommendations, that will set a very good example. When talking to kids about wearing masks, how do we do this? Most of our kids are obviously over age 3, but even younger children, it's best to answer their questions in language that they understand. If kids under 3 are asking about why people are wearing masks, explain that sometimes people wear them when they're sick and when they are better, that they don't need to wear it quite as much since they'll be staying home. For children over 3 who are out and about more, focus on germs. Explain that germs are part of our body, and that some are good and some are bad, but the bad ones can make you sick. Since we can't always tell which are good and bad, the cloth face coverings help make sure that you keep germs away from your own body and keep other people's safe as well. Again, we know that there are risks just from a socio-emotional standpoint of wearing masks, and that kids might feel uncomfortable or feeling different. And so again, normalizing that as much as possible is going to be important as we go through this year. Lastly, just wanted to touch on mask exemptions. So masks are not recommended for children under age 2. They're also not recommended if the individual is incapacitated or unable to remove the mask themselves. They are not recommended if there is severe respiratory compromise. Briefly, to comment on asthma and allergies. These are common conditions, especially in pediatric population. It is common that people with asthma and allergies might be coughing more or having more runny nose, that might be confused with COVID symptoms, but also might be producing more droplets. So there's a number of reasons that masks are important for patients that have asthma and allergies, so that they are not spreading more of the droplets. There also might be a benefit in that there is some protection of the allergies and pollens and other irritants in the air by wearing a mask. We do know that kids who have asthma and allergies might feel uncomfortable with wearing a mask, and this is definitely something to talk to your pediatrician or your family practice doctor about. But generally, we are trying to get the asthma and allergies under control with treatment and allergy avoidance before writing a mask exemption. Also, severe mental health condition is a reason for a mask exemption. And then briefly wanted to touch on face shields as a substitute for masks. At this point, these are intended more for eye protection for the person wearing it, and there's not enough evidence to support wearing face shields in place of a mask for source control, and that it does not significantly decrease respiratory droplets from the wearer. Essentially, for all mask exemptions, there are many different scenarios to this, and encourage you to connect with your pediatrician to evaluate what the risk is for the individual patient. I'm going to stop there. I see some questions in the chat, but I'm having trouble viewing them on the screen I'm in.
Okay, the one question about masks, putting names on masks, absolutely. I think that's really important. If you can put your name on mask, if you know somebody who can sew, that's even better. But absolutely, putting your name on the mask is encouraged. I don't see any other questions. Face shields are discouraged, correct?
So face shields have not been approved as a proper way to do source control because it only protects the individual from droplets, not vice versa. So it has not been approved as a replacement for masks. From the CDC standpoint, again, I think that if you were to have a conversation and risk assessment with your individual physician, there might be other scenarios where that plays out.
Absolutely. And I would say when in doubt, ask your physician.
Mm-hmm.
Utilize their area of expertise to help navigate all of this. I default to our local doctors for all of this. There was another question about kids who don't wear glasses. Should we worry about protecting their eyes?
So at this point, there is not a call for widespread eye protection in terms of associated with universal masking. There, in the medical field, we are now recommending protection of eyes from a personal protective equipment standpoint, but in the community, that's not strictly recommended. Now, certainly there are masks that come with a face shield built in, or adding a face shield is absolutely a reasonable option to mitigate risk even further.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Jacob. We appreciate you coming on and helping us out with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to see everybody.
Wonderful. All right. So let's get back to, so now that we've talked a little bit about masks, an update that our masks will be available, as well as our gym shirts will be in for school supply drop-off. So you will be able to pick them up right there. Okay. So now, big question, what is the plan for masks? So currently we are waiting on the diocese to come out with their requirements for masks. We are, I'm working with Father Peter and Father Michael on what it would look like here at St. Paul. Our tentative plan will be holding 2 different masses on Thursday. We'd have the K4 mask and then a K4 mass and a 5/8 mass. Each classroom would have their own area of pews in the church. So if you're familiar, we've got 4 big sections of pews. So each classroom would have their own section, which would allow the students proper spacing and ample spacing as they go across Mass. They would be sitting 6 feet apart. Right now at Mass is definitely, students are in masks as all adults are ages 2 and up during Mass. So those are our tentative schedules for Mass. Again, once the diocese comes out with their procedures, we will adapt and share those out as soon as possible. So we expect those here in the near future. We will not be having Mass the first week of school for sure. We come back on a Wednesday, and we just felt that we needed to get our students acclimated to all of the transitions that they're having with the entry and how the days function. So we will not be having Mass that first week of school. And then we will not have it until it is actually safe for all of our students to be there. We will be live streaming Mass at one of those Mass for all of our virtual students to be able to attend at home or virtually. So again, this plan is still tentative. It's still in the works. And I appreciate all of your questions as it helps us navigate what the back to Mass plan will look like. Let's see here. A next question, who will be watching students during lunch? The classroom teachers will be eating lunch will be in the classroom while the students are doing lunch, either in the classroom or outside on the school grounds to do lunch. Then when the students are dismissed to go to recess, that's when our teaching staff will have their lunch break. Currently, we are kicking off the school year with our recesses being monitored by our support staff. I know that there's been an email that has gone out to sign up for your crossing guard and your recess duty. So we're putting a little bit of a pause on the recess duty right now, just to get into the swing of things, and we'll be covering it with our support staff here in the building. That also means for rainy days, we will have, again, our support staff, myself, Mr. Meitner, all hands on deck covering those times. The next question about Grand Rapids Public Schools specials. So many of you know that all of our elective and specials teachers come from and are employed by Grand Rapids Public School. And Grand Rapids Public Schools announced that they will be virtual for the first 9 weeks of school. Right now, we are continuing in discussions with Grand Rapids Public, and we will still be offering all of the specials. The question becomes whether they will be in our building or whether they would be streamed to the student. But all students will have those specials, and they will be, whether it will be given by one of our staff members implementing the plan from the GRPS teachers, or the GRPS teachers being within our building. So all electives will be happening. And I spoke a little bit about what band and choir will look like for junior high earlier. A really big thing with the pandemic that we're in is making sure that our students' emotional and mental health is stable and safe. We've all been going through trauma right now, and trauma is real, and it really does affect our students. So the students' physical and mental health is of the greatest importance to me, which is why we continue to partner with All Belong as well as the Franciscan Life Center to ensure that all students' needs are met, both physically as well as mentally and emotionally, and they have access. So we will have counselors available for any student that needs it, and so you as parents can request, let us know, and it will really be the communications between school and home and teacher and home that will help us identify the students who need those services. Mrs. Swain also is our student support staff member who will advocate for all students to make sure that they are receiving the services that they need. So big questions that we pop up about what's virtual learning going to look like. Much different than the emergency learning, which we had in March, April, and May of last year. Our virtual learning is going to be held on the Canvas platform. We are still, the staff and I are meeting and drawing together all of the final virtual learning plans, and those will be formally released to you at the end of this week. So some things that we know that will be happening and are non-negotiables for us is that each family who chooses virtual learning, each child will have an individual check-in with a staff member here at St. Paul. It will be that staff member for the entirety of their virtual learning journey, as well as their classroom teacher. So there is a possibility to have multiple check-ins in a day, even when live instruction is happening here at the school. For materials and supplies, for packets and workbooks, depending on the age of the student and the classroom will depend on what the packets and supplies and workbooks would be. So we will be working closely with each grade level to make sure that the students have ample access to resources, as well as each family. Some have printers available and can easily print. Some kids like to do all of their work on a computer, and some love just the old school paper and pencil and feeling it in their hands. So we are going to adapt our plans to meet the needs of you and your families. So it's really going to be about the communication, particularly when we are in this hybrid schedule of both in-person teaching as well as virtual teaching. So be on the lookout for that. Along with that is going to be coming some training from the diocese on how to access Canvas. What does it look like? How do I, as a parent, help my child? And so we will be sharing that once it is live soon. So you can be expected to be learning about it, as well as the first couple weeks of school will be all about understanding the procedures, what's new, what's changed, how does this look, and really get the feet wet with our students on both virtual as well as in-person learning. With that, we have the NWEA assessment that all kindergarten through 8th grade students take every fall, winter, and spring. NWEA has updated, so all virtual students will be able to take this test at home. This will allow us to make individual learning plans, see where their students are at and where their needs might be, and adjust their learning plans accordingly. So whether you're in person or whether you are virtual, you will have access and be able to take those assessments. Okay, so now I'm going to look over, we had some late questions pop in, so let me quickly go over there. So there were some questions about pickup, drop off, how that is. It's confusing, yes. So think about pickup separately from drop off. Dropping off first thing in the morning, you will drop off based on your student's grade level. This is to make sure that during that time, we have different access points into the building so we don't have large amounts of students gathering in one spot or another. This will help us ensure those social distancing. So there is that map on our website that will be able to identify preschool and kindergarten who are dropping off near the parish office and all the way around our building to utilize all of that space. When it comes to pickup, it actually runs very similarly to how our regular pickup runs. The only difference is we're trying to limit how many parents are lined up at one time. So many of you who are returning parents know that that line can get very long and sometimes try and creep out into Burton if we are not efficient enough. So we want to be able to buy time since students will be leaving from their classrooms to join you at the car, as opposed to be all gathered in the gymnasium and being released from there as traditional pickup goes. So you will drive through and pick up. It'll start near the office doors and we'll push through towards the end of the parking lot and have multiple spots outlined, and you'll be directed by a staff member where to pull up. Your child will meet you, and then you will follow the car in front of you out the exit. Very similar to what our normal pickup procedure are. So we have A through M who will be picking up first. I know there was a very glaring typo when we first sent it out. So A through M will be our first section of pickups, and then starting at 3:15, we're asking families with the last name of N through Z to then start lining up. So we appreciate your assistance and help, and really that's to help make sure that the line doesn't get too long, that we have ample amount of time to get the students to the car safely and are not rushing through. Let's see here. If your child is a walker or are being picked up on Woodlawn, yes, we would really appreciate. The question is, do we need to let the school know? Yes, let your teacher know whether your child is a car rider or a walker, so that way we can plan and make sure that they are planning to go where they need to go at the end of the school day, which is the same policy and procedure that we use in normal school years. Question about virtual learning. Does every student have their own login to Canvas? Yes, they do. Every student has their individual Canvas login and their individual profile that will then take them through their course. And virtual learning is open for preschool through 8th grade. Preschool will not be using the Canvas platform. Mrs. Miller has developed her own kind of website that she will be updating the information that's a little bit easier for a preschooler to navigate. And then kindergarten through 8th grade will be using the Canvas platform. And again, training with Canvas, that will be coming up soon from the diocese. I'm going to quick check the chat here to see if there's any questions. Questions about parents being able to drop off and attend to make sure their child gets to their classroom safely. We are at this point, out of an abundance of care for our staff and students, we are asking that all parents and visitors drop their kids off at the door. So if you have a preschooler, you are more than welcome to pull up into the drop-off zone, get out of your car, walk him to the teacher, his or her teacher that will be standing there, and say goodbye at the door. That will allow us to make sure that there are not very many people within our building and make sure socially distanced standards are upheld. It's going to be difficult for us as parents, but trust that we have the best interests of your students and our staff with this change. There's a question about falling back into a phase 3. Phase 3 does require that all schools are closed. However, we do fall under that. Our school will be closed, but we will be offering childcare for all of our dual working families. So if you are a dual working family that is still employed and working at that time, we will be able to offer childcare for you. And during childcare, they will be able to go through their virtual learning and their learning experience. There's a question about faith families. Right now, faith families are on a little timeout. It would not be in our best interest to cross grade levels and start all together today in the gym. We are working on doing some kind of pen paling back and forth and different socially distanced options there. But right now, our faith families are not going to be meeting every day like they normally would. See, Katie, anything else that I have missed or haven't touched on?
The public attending mass.
Public attending mass, great question. Right now, again, since we do not have the feedback from the diocese on the expectations from that, if public does attend, it will be in a very, very limited capacity. So much so that it would probably be the only public would be parents of students that are part. They would have to go through a screener. They would not be coming in through the church doors. They would have to be screened through the parish office prior to coming in. Again, this may or may not occur. The safest bet would be say that the mass is closed to all but the school children. We are still waiting to find out the final there. And if you have feedback on that, I would love to hear it as we are navigating that. Okay. Volunteering right now is, you are absolutely allowed to volunteer, just not within our building. is the short answer of it. Again, we are taking abundance of safety precautions going into the start of the school year. And then we are looking forward to slowly being able to peel those back and peel those away, finding that we can keep our students and our families safe. So right now, all volunteer opportunities will be outside of the school building. But we will not be having volunteers within our building right now. So we appreciate all of it. You know, this is what makes our community so fantastic, is how many hands want to be in to help. But again, for the safety of our students and for our staff, we want to make sure that we keep a very tight lid on what's going on within the building and who's in it. Yeah. All right. I think that answers about everything that we've had. We did have some questions about when the bipolar ionization systems go in. Those will be installed at the end of this week, and the last day of install will be Monday. So they will be up and running and ready for your students to come in when they return on Wednesday. And we are so excited about that. We also had a team of phenomenal volunteers that put together some more screen panels for our classrooms to really go above and beyond ensuring that your kids have a safe environment to come back to. So, gym uniforms, another great question that's popping up. Right now, typically our 5th through 8th grade either change into the uniforms or change out of their uniforms. On a PE day, all students will be able to stay in their PE uniforms at all times. We don't want to overload our bathroom systems at this time. So all students will be able to wear their gym uniforms all day when it is PE. Okay. If you have any other questions that pop up and pop to your mind, I'm sure they will. I invite you, the survey, the parent back to school meeting questionnaire will remain open, and we will respond to those and update our FAQ page as we receive more and more questions. We appreciate all of your assistance, all of your support, all of your questions. Honestly, your questions and your wonderings have helped make sure and ensure that we are having a very solid plan going into this school year. Like I said before, your students and our staff here at St. Paul are of my utmost concern. I want to make sure that their safety, their mental health, their physical, social, emotional needs are all met. So I really appreciate all of the work that you're doing, sticking with us, reading all of the documentation. The start back to the school year is exciting, and I cannot wait to see my babies back in the building. I have missed them immensely. So thank you for joining us today. Again, this recording will be made available on our website, so you can reference it. I encourage you to continue to add questions to our document so we can update our FAQs to what is burning on your mind. Be on the lookout this week for our virtual plan for the blended, which would be, we are in person but are also offering virtual, as well as what it would look like if we went full virtual. Thanks for coming, and have a blessed night and a wonderful last few days of summer. Bye.
Cell phones be placed in a community box.